Hi, Sharon. Hello,
Okay.
everybody. This is Grit, Grace, and Progress with Lamar, and we got our other host here, Sharon Ellis. How you doing today?
I'm great, Lamar. How are you?
Doing good. Just all this rain that we're having.
I know. I don't know if you just heard the thunder.
Do you see a glare from my light over my head?
I do. It's going straight down your face.
That is horrible. Let me go to this light right quick. Yeah, I had to get this glare off my face. It was like going right down the middle of my face. I'm like, wow. So anyway,
Yeah. How is
go ahead.
mine? Because sometimes I have to turn my lights off as well.
Yeah, just you can't even tell I got my lights off. It still got some decent light, I guess, coming from this window here. But it's been an interesting week this week. We come together, try to get as many Saturdays as we can to give everybody an update of what's been going on in our country, as well as just some of the social and cultural issues that we've had. And I know some of the things that we're going to discuss today, which is really interesting because of the fact that every week or every day is something different. So I know that
Hmm.
you're going to talk a little bit about some of the boycotts and some of the protests that are going on this weekend and this coming week. But I don't know if you were familiar that they were telling us to keep our behinds at home this weekend. Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I
That's
saw a
very
lot of funny
interesting.
memes on that.
That's interesting. That's pretty funny. And then Greg, if he shows up today, we were going to talk about a little bit with him about prepping, and trying to learning how to survive in these current times that we're living in. I mean, that can go anything from finances to health to self defense to just actually just being aware of what's really happening out here. And then one of the final things I wanted to discuss a little bit was Cory Booker's speech. And I want to combine that with Kamala Harris's speech. And then Obama had a few comments just recently. So I want to just touch base on some of those things. But before we get there, these storms that are coming across this country, I mean, I think about from every state from Texas through the Midwest, even like Pittsburgh, are talking about flood warnings. I don't know. What is it? You got any floods in your area at all? Have you heard anything?
Not right now, but what usually happens on the street that I live on, at the end of the street, there are fields, and
Okay.
then right under the freeway, right under Interstate 75, there's a low area, and so a lot of times the water covers that soccer field.
Mm-hmm.
So far, it stays in the soccer field; it doesn't get on the street, so that's a
Right.
good thing. Now, the section under the 75 Central Expressway,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that gets, and there's Wilson Creek that's over there as well. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar with that,
I'm
but
not.
that also floods and they have to shut that off. People can't drive through that area. So a day like today, I know not to go that way because it's probably, and that's the way I go home a lot when I'm going north on 75 coming home. But I know not
Okay.
to even go that way today because it's possibly going to flood.
Okay. Got you. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, question for you. So, when it comes to these protests, what is the thing that caught your attention the most about these boycotts and protests that's happening today? What was one of the things that surprised you the most about this? Like
I
caught your
think
attention.
the thing that caught most of my attention, I think, is that, a lot of times in these type of times, we're more accustomed to people of color that are
Hmm.
protesting for our civil rights, for our
Hmm.
voting rights. But now, in the climate we're in right now, you have non-melanin people that are seeing their rights stripped away. And so
Hmm.
now they're wanting to protest because they're afraid of the hostile takeover. So
Got
that's
you.
one of the things that stuck out to me about this boycott that's happening today.
Have you engaged with anyone or talked to anyone who was looking at boycotting or protesting this week? Have you talked to anybody personally about that?
I have not. I was on the call, the hands off call that they did. I was
Hmm.
multitasking and was not able to listen to the entire call and wasn't able to give it my undivided attention. But what I did note was there were several different groups that came
Hmm.
on and that spoke. And most of those people that were on there were not people that look like you and me.
Got
And
you.
I want to see if I can find the section that talks about some of the groups that are engaging in this boycott.
Hmm.
Um, it's being organized by advocacy groups, including the Third Act, an environmental group led by environmentalist and author Bill McKibben. It's
Hmm.
also Reproductive Freedom for All and 5501 Movement.
Hmm.
So those are other groups that are engaging in this and organizing this hands off and mobilizing this boycott.
Right.
Um, Another thing is they are boycotting. If you There's a SAVE Act that Congress will be voting on this week, which civil rights activists have warned that
Hmm.
this will make it harder for women and minorities to register to vote.
Got
So
you.
this boycott is also coming before that. And
Right.
so we also saw the stock market plunge this
Hmm.
week with the
Right.
tariffs that he imposed. And
Right.
so now you have small businesses now, and that's another thing that I think is powerful as well, is that there are small businesses. I've read just this morning where a
Hmm.
small business said they may have to close their doors now because they cannot sustain the extra money that will be coming from the tariff.
Right.
So
Right.
now you have small. So I think what's happening is in galvanizing this protest is you have people that normally don't think they would have been affected by
Hmm.
this administration. So now you have people that are non-melon that are gravely being uh, hit with this administration, and you have the small business. So a lot
Right.
of people, oh, go in business. You need to go in business. Okay. But we see that if you are a small business, he is not for you. You
Right.
cannot sustain some of the things that are going on. And so I think this makes it powerful. Another thing is you talked about some of the things that were said for people of color to sit this one out.
Hmm.
And so I thought about that. So one of the things that I think will make this boycott powerful is that it was not organized by people that look like us,
Right.
because we have seen this administration does not care about us. And
Right.
so I would say we have to fight. It's a harder fight for us now. And the one thing that I think is very powerful for us is our vote and our economics.
Right.
So at this
Hmm.
time, what we need to do, I feel, is organize in different cities to educate our people that don't understand the power of voting, but also educate them why you need to vote, but what and who you need to vote for.
Right.
Because some people, believe it or not, some people go in that poll and they vote blindly. They don't do any research. They don't understand what they're voting for. And I can say the successes that we've seen in the last two elections was in Louisiana, where
Hmm.
they had some amendments that the governor was trying to push through that were going to be detrimental to the state. Now,
Hmm.
normally Louisiana has a low voter turnout, but we see Gary Chapman, who is very, very
Yeah. I like him.
instrumental and activist. He got other people to come into the state and help galvanize the state so that they could defeat those amendments. We
Right.
also see the judge in Wisconsin, that the Democrat judge that defeated the Republican judge. That's
Hmm.
another very, very valuable win for the Democrats. Now, one
Right.
thing that I was hoping we could have at least gotten one of those Senate seats in Florida, but
Right. That would have been
both
good.
Republicans. But it did seem as if the margin has lessened.
Hmm.
Um, it was a fight for them to win those 2 seats. So going forward now, what we have to do, I feel, as people of color, as you said, they a lot of people said we need to sit this one out.
Right.
So our fight is vote and the economic boycott. We have seen that that has been very successful. The Target,
Right.
I was
Hmm.
reading the other day, they've lost billions of dollars. Their stock share has gone down,
Yeah.
and so, but I do think
they
a lot of
April
people said
5th,
we need the April 5th boycott today. I do think it would be very, very valuable. And if you could show the map that
Okay.
shows the number of uh, areas that are going to be protesting today, and also note this map shows uh, just the U.S.
Right.
There also are going to be protests in other countries as well today. So if
Hmm.
you look at that map, that's a lot of different areas
Right.
that people are going to be protesting today.
Right.
Another powerful thing is the town hall meetings, I think also galvanized this boycott
Hmm.
because, the Republicans, they were getting such heat at the town hall meetings that they were told to stop the town hall meetings.
Right.
Now, I would say Democrats, what they need to do, they need to pick up that baton.
Right.
So the Democrats, I mean, the Republicans are running from their constituents and not wanting to address what they are facing. And
Hmm.
so I think the Democrats need to now go to those town hall meetings to galvanize. So I think that this boycott today really will hopefully grab some attention.
Right. Got a question about, okay, if you look at it from that perspective, you look at all these cities that are lit up, that was on that map, and I'll bring that map back up so people can see it again. We can just talk over that. But when you look at all these cities that are looking at boycotting, why does it take why does it take people to really vote against their best interests? And it comes down to dire needs when the light clicks on. I mean, it's almost like your kid. Like you can have your kid, and you're telling them that at some point, uh, the lost my mouse here. You talking to your kid, and you say, "Don't touch that light. The light's gonna burn you." And it's almost like they don't believe you. It's like they don't believe you. They finally got to touch it. They're like, "Oh yeah, okay, it did burn me this time." And it's the same thing that's happening now in politics, where I'm looking at these individuals and I'm like, you are you've lost your jobs. Some people have actually been deported. You've had people who have lost their government funding because they're low income or whatever the case may be, and you're wondering like what's going on. Like, why did it have to take that much for you to say, okay, I get it now, I want to go protest? But now you want everyone to protest with you because you're hurting. When other people have been hurting over the years, you look back and you thought that this pain would never reach my front door. And
Mhm.
now it's in your face. And now you want everybody to join you, which, I think we should join, but it's it's frustrating to me that it took this much for the country to see how bad it is. Like you were talking about the town halls and these that they were having in these Republican cities. They're going in there fussing and angry and upset. And it was like, that's like Kamala Harris said this week when she was speaking. She said, it seemed like we told you these things, but I don't want to say I told you so. And I was like, it was right on point because she did. She told everybody. She warned everybody. And it's so weird. I can't even get my mouse to work, so I can't change the screen. The screen. It's like, man, why is it happening to me today? I don't even
I
see
think
my
there
mouse.
while you're getting your mouse together, but I think
Yeah.
there are two things here we can look
Mm-hmm.
at. First of all, I think a lot of those people are one issue voters. What I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is they only focus on abortion.
Right.
Um, some of it, a lot of it is built out of hatred and racism. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it was an uprise and people were mad that Barack Obama, a man of color, was
Hmm.
able to make it to the Oval Office. He was
Yeah.
able to make it as president of this country. And
Hmm.
so they know that right now, and it's been talked about, and they've been seeing it. So I think it's just something they've been planning for a long time because they are afraid of the browning of
Hmm.
America. And
Right.
so that is a lot of what I think people, that's all they concentrated on. And
Hmm.
some of them, I feel, don't care that their economic situations are going to be difficult. And they thought it was only going to be, you hear a lot of people say, oh, I didn't know it was going to affect my job. Oh,
Right.
I didn't realize they were going to ship my husband off or
Right.
my family. They didn't think it was going to affect them. And
Right.
I don't think they thought it was going to affect them this soon. And now they see where the young man that was sent to Venezuela with
Yeah.
the so-called gang members, that was a legal, he was here legally,
Yeah.
has a, and they stripped him with, he had his autism son with him. And so they still took him, and now the country is saying, oh, there's nothing we can do to get him back. Oh, yes, you can. You
Yeah.
made arrangements to take people there. You can make arrangements to bring them back.
Especially
So
with our
I think
power.
what's right. And so I think
Mhm.
this boycott now is about, okay, so now our economics are going to be affected. And those individuals that were trying to seek citizenship, now
Mhm.
they see, okay, I could have legal citizenship. I can
Yeah.
be a law abiding citizen, but
Yeah.
yet I could be stripped from this country and sent away. And there's nothing my family can do, and this guy that I voted for has now turned his back on me.
Yeah.
So now I think it's all of that. Another thing people need to be aware of is this point. If you strip a people of their basic rights,
Mhm.
of their ability to have a decent income to take care of their families, and they become down to the poverty line.
Mhm.
Now you can really control those people. You can
No, you
be a
can.
dictator because you strip them of everything. And
Right.
so I think this boycott, people are now seeing, if we don't rise up now, we are
Mhm.
going to lose the democracy that we had, the little democracy that we had.
Right.
And it's not going to just affect us, it's going to be torn apart where it's going to affect our children. What
Yeah.
kind of world am I going to leave my children with, my grandchildren, my great
Absolutely.
grandchildren, and my great great grandchildren? And so it's sad that people don't understand the power of being proactive instead of
Mm.
reactive. And I think
No.
that's what this boycott is about. They're being reactive to the decision that they made. They're
Right.
having buyer's
When
remorse.
I started
And
drinking
so
warm
now
water
they
to help me
realize
lose
they
weight, my
have to
friends
do
laughed at
something.
me. But when they saw how
Right.
much I'd improved,
I got
they
a.
started.
I was putting another video. I was trying to get a video to come up, but I wasn't too successful at that. No, but I was looking at this video with RFK. We were talking about how people are catching themselves, in the crosshairs of everything that's going on within this administration. And one of the things that caught my attention also was RFK, talking about how they have to get rid of these different agencies. And I was just reading here, if I could find it. He's scrambling right now to put things back in place. If you notice, every time they make a
Hmm.
cut somewhere, they
Right.
they fire all these people. Then they realize they made a mistake because they got rid of people they shouldn't have got rid of. They got to run back. So it's like after moving to fire 10,000 employees of the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the health secretary, said that some programs that were cut in the mass firings were being reinstated. Now, this is the one that catches me the most. It says, including one branch at the Center of Disease and Control and Prevention that monitors the reduce of lead poisoning among lead levels among our children.
Mm.
We know this is a major issue in our country. We know it's a major issue. And yet That's one of the programs that you decide to cut. One that's going to impact a lot of people in impoverished communities, low income, people that don't have the necessary needs to get the medical attention they need. And we know the history of inner city communities with lead in their pipes. We know this is a problem. And I don't think it's ever been remediated. And this is the program you decide to remove. Now, did you remove it because you're going to revamp it with people that's going to get a better work done? I don't think so. Because you should have thought about that before you fired 10,000 people, before you fired important agencies within the health sector. So it's always going to be those that are going to be less able to defend themselves that are impacted by these current types of policies. I saw another guy yesterday on social media. He was driving to work, Hispanic guy, was driving to work with two other Hispanic men. And ICE just surrounds their car. This is a guy that's a citizen. They pull him out the car with guns drawn, asking to be telling him he needs to be handcuffed. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why would you go that far without knowing who you're arresting? Especially if you at this person's house. Like he's, near his house or whatever. And, it changed his thoughts. And he voted for Trump, by the way. He voted for Donald Trump. And when he showed his ID, they let him go, but they kept his two friends that he was with. Don't know any more details about that. But I don't know if they had the documentation they needed or what the case was with those two. But he was upset because he said how much he voted for Trump. And not, excuse me, the brainwashing was that he was going after criminals only. Me and you knew that wasn't the case. We were worried about him coming after us too, So
well, the man lied during his first administration. He told lies then. So why they believed him this time, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah, but it's catching them now. It's catching them. They're catching the heat on all this right now, and I'm wishing that it was different. But I'm going to try to see if I can pull up some of this Obama speech here. He was saying some really good things also. And I want to see if I can get this thing to properly do what it's supposed to do. And I clicked the wrong one. There's this way that I could bring up some of these videos, but for some reason, because the way I'm doing this from home, I'm still learning a lot of things with it. But there was this video I saw with Obama speaking, and it's weird now. Before I even go to that video, check this out. So I know you heard this week, Trump was asked about if he were to run for president again. Did you hear anything about that?
I didn't.
Okay. He's only supposed to get 2 years, do 2 terms, like, all of our presidents, they get 2 terms. Well,
do you live in Texas? If you have been in a car accident in Texas within the last year, even as a passenger, you might be entitled to a significant payout. Just click the link around this video to
then he can get put in place, to be president.
This has to do with something
in that situation. Same thing for Trump.
More precious.
So when Trump was asked, like, hey, would you want to go against Obama? Or he was like, oh, I welcome that. And he didn't say anything negative, like you would typically hear him say, like being stupid, not knowing anything, all his problems, all these. You didn't hear him say that this time from the Oval Office on all these cameras. But, he'll get in Truth Social or go to an all-conservative platform and he'll say these things. So I was just wondering, would he even take that challenge on? Would he do it just to appease people, or would he do it because he really thought he could win? And I'm not sure.
This has to do with something.
So I want to see if I can bring this up for you. I hear him talking.
I can hear it.
Who are we?
You can't hear it?
As a country, and what values do we stand for? And
I'm going to push it live.
Now, this is not just an abstraction, and I think this is one of the challenges that we have. And I saw this even before the last election, I think people tend to think, democracy, rule of law, independent judiciary, freedom of the press, that's all abstract stuff because it's not affecting the price of eggs. Well, you know what? It's about to affect the price of eggs. One of the things that has distinguished us in the past has been this basic idea that we are a rules-based society. What that means is that, you know what, I can support one candidate instead of another, and I don't have to worry that the police are going to come harass me or my customers. That's what happens in other places. That's what happens in Russia. We take for granted the idea that we don't have to pay bribes or hire somebody's cousin in order to get a business permit. That's how we built the economy we did. That's why this place worked. And it has very concrete impacts on all of our lives. So, this is the first time I've been speaking publicly for a while. I've been watching a little bit. Yeah. Let me just close this portion of my remarks by saying it is up to all of us to fix this. It's not going to be because somebody comes and saves you. The most important office in this democracy is the citizen, the ordinary person who says, no, that's not right. And I do think one of the reasons that our commitment to democratic ideals has eroded is that we got pretty comfortable and complacent. You know, it has been easy during most of our lifetimes to say you are a progressive, or say you are for social justice, or say you're for free speech, and not have to pay a price for it. And now we're at one of those moments where, you know what, it's not enough just to say you're for something. You may actually have to do something and possibly sacrifice a little bit. So
that's the part I wanted to come to, was where he said, I mean, to lead up to that point is where I was. We've been talking about this for a while, is what are you willing to give up? Mm-hmm. We've talked about it in so many areas, from survival and fitness perspective of self-defense. We talked about this through losing jobs, willing to protest. What are you willing to sacrifice to not only make your voice heard, but also encourage people so we can have change? We talked about this with boycotting. And you've known me for a while now. You hear me talk about boycotting a lot on other platforms, on our Facebook platforms. I'm talking about boycotting, and people seem very passive about it. I don't think people realize the boycotting that has happened with Target, how it's affected their revenue. If we are doing this with multiple companies, that's going to be more important than anything Donald Trump is trying to do in the White House right now. Because these companies, their bottom line is what's important. And if you can imagine, if you hit Home Depot, you hit McDonald's, you hit Target, you hit Amazon, all these companies at the same time, and not just one day, but over an extended period of time. Like Otis Monster III has been talking about doing this 40-day fast. How many people are actually committed to a 40-day fast? of not spending your money in these locations. Me personally, I know that I've withheld my dollars from a lot of companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I have more money in my bank account actually because I decided to hold my dollars. I'm not shopping as much. But when you think about what Obama was just saying about us being complacent and that we're looking similar to like Russia, and then he comes up to the end of that statement that I where I cut it off at about some of us can no longer just use our voice, but sometimes we're going to have to sacrifice. What is your perspective on that, and where do you see it moving in the next, say, 3 to 6 months?
I absolutely think that has to be people's mindset to want to sacrifice. We are so accustomed to business as usual, being able to have things at our fingertips. But it is going to take sacrifice.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have even started doing of late in terms of these tariffs, and I told my family this summer, but people did not take heed to my suggestion. My suggestion was even this summer that we start buying up and stocking.
Yeah.
And so now we're right into it, and it would have been so much easier had we stocked ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you it's a sacrifice because I don't shop on Amazon a lot, but
Right.
there are times when I'm looking for things and I can go right to Amazon and find it. So now I'm even trying to find alternatives instead of Amazon.
Right.
Because I just can no longer see, and I've been one that has always thought economic boycott was the way, and I have been
This has to
doing
do
it
with something
as much as I could
more
Right.
precious,
a long time.
which is
But I think that's the problem that a lot of people have is making that sacrifice.
Right.
But
No, I definitely hear
sacrifice
you.
is the only way we're going to be able to make change. I guarantee you, Target got the message.
Yeah.
Now I saw a boycott that came out the other day to boycott Walmart from April the 7th to April the 14th.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so I think that's the only thing that gets their attention. You start pulling those dollars away,
this has
their
to do with
profits
something
start hurting. That's the only thing that I see that will get their attention. And we
Right.
just have to stop funding bad behavior because that's
Right.
what we've been doing for years. We've been funding bad behavior, funding things that are against us. We
Yeah.
got to stop. We should no longer support people that don't care about us.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. I found this other one from Kamala Harris. Let me know what you think about this after we listen to it.
Okay.
We're saying people stay quiet. We are seeing organizations stay quiet. We are seeing those who are capitulating to clearly unconstitutional threats. And these are the things that we are witnessing each day in these last few months in our country. And it understandably creates a great sense of fear. Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so. I swore I wasn't going to say that. But I'll say this. Fear has a way of being contagious. Okay? When one person has fear, it has a way of spreading to those around them and spreading. And we are witnessing that, no doubt. But I say this also, my dear friends. Courage is also contagious. Courage is also contagious. We're saying people stay quiet.
So we just seen two videos from two people that have spoke more truth, have spoke more directly, and gave you a call to action. Obama mentioned about sacrifice and not being complacent. Kamala Harris just spoke about not being as fearful, but that courage, how contagious that can be. Those two things are calls of action that there's a lot of people right now that are fearful. They're worried about all the things that can affect their lives in the next 3 years. And they are moving. They're either moving in silence, where they're like not really saying much, but inside they're destroying, they're like being torn apart on the inside. Then you got those that are just sitting back waiting for it to like smooth itself out. And I don't think they realize that what's happening right now with these executive orders. Remember, an executive order can go into place, a federal judge can reverse things, but as we've seen over the last month or so, the Trump administration is not respecting the court of law right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not respecting what judges are saying. They're actually doing things. I mean, right now they got to put a ban on certain things, like with the airplanes going to Venezuela, or was it El Salvador? Yeah, the Venezuelans were going to El Salvador, and the judge said turn the planes around, and let the planes go there anyway.
Right.
The same thing is happening throughout these different court orders, because they're basically saying the president doesn't have to make a decision. Yeah.
I'll say before you go too far, turn the plane around, and the judge could not do anything to enforce that. That's the sad thing about the place we're in right now.
Yeah. So when you see these things, to sit back and think it's going to just blow over is not a reality, because it takes a lot to get these things changed. And they don't typically get changed until the next administration comes in to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to think,
that's a long time to wait.
Exactly. Are you willing to wait that long because you want it to just blow over? You can't bury your head in the sand on this one. You just can't. And as you see from Republicans who are arguing and fighting with their elected officials over being misled, the other side has to be aggressive as well and trying to do something to prevent further frustration, which I'll say boycott. My main thing has always been boycott. Withhold your dollars, gets the people. Let me owe you $100, and I don't give it to you. You're gonna be trying to figure out how you're gonna get that $100 from me. The same thing with these stores. You say I'm not gonna shop, they're gonna be enticing you to come into their place. And many companies already have basically folded. And you look at, oh man, this is the one that got me. As you know, I'm a sneakerhead, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you realize also, okay, it's clothing and apparel. Yep. Is where the it's taking a big hit, and it's due to these tariffs. Where is it at? I just had it up yesterday. I meant to say this and I didn't, but I was reading this yesterday. Where is it at? Excuse me. 20 items and goods most exposed to the price shocks from the tariffs. So you're looking at, I want to just see if I can share this screen with you. I don't know if it'll let me share it with you or not. Where are we at? Let me see if I can bring this in and not show, every time I kept trying to do something different, I had this Obama video kept coming up. See, it's not showing all of it. So I might have to just read it off to you. But it was showing all the companies, the types of companies that are going to be impacted by these tariffs. So you're looking at leather products, gloves, handbags. 18% change in price level, 18.3. You're looking at wearing apparel, shoes, clothing, 16.9%. Metals, 12%. Silk and wool, 10.9%. Textiles, which are rugs or curtains, getting a 9.6%. Electrical equipment like household appliances, stoves, refrigerators, etc., 10% increase. You're looking at Tupperware and plastic products, tires, 6.4% increase. Now, vegetable fruits and nuts is 4%, but they're already high. So that means they're going to go 4% higher than what they are now. That's not good. Then we're looking at wood products, construction grade, plywood, softwood. If you remember here in Dallas during the pandemic, if you remember, you didn't see building and housing slow down here. Houses were still being built. Like my whole neighborhood was built during COVID, which is ridiculous. I just couldn't imagine that. I heard other communities slow down production. Here in Texas, it kept building. And so the pandemic, the prices went up, but the pandemic didn't slow down the construction of the work. Now, what's going to happen now with these tariffs? From what I'm hearing from different sources across the, whether it's radio, these different journalists are saying that the housing market can really slow down. Can slow down a lot. I know during the pandemic, other cities and states were really affected by the housing market during COVID. But as you know, here in Texas, we saw communities continue to grow. I don't know how that's going to be impacted with these current tariffs now. Will it really slow things down? Because you not only all these various materials, before it was just the building materials that was really impacted like that. Now you're looking at multiple things for building that house. Not only that, but companies are then laying off, cutting workers and everything. I'm not sure, but these the different countries, like shoes, for instance, I was looking at tennis shoes, Nike, Adidas, Reebok, Puma. You're looking at super increases because those tariffs are hitting countries like China, Vietnam, Cambodia, where they're making these products. Now, those countries now have like a 49% increase in tariffs, 47%, which is ridiculous in my opinion. What is it? 34% retaliatory tariff on China that was announced Friday. That takes place on April 10th. Nearly 144 billion worth of goods to China in 2024, which is the third largest market in the U.S. goods behind Canada and Mexico, according to the Census Bureau. So that was in 2024. Imagine that impact this year with the way he put those tariffs in. So you're looking at an increase between 10% and 20% due to tariffs that Trump has so far imposed, according to Yale Budget Lab analysis. So I got to give Yale that the shout out for that. Where was it at? Right here. Wednesday, the imports will face 34% duty. Goods from Vietnam, Shangri-La, Bangladesh face tariffs of 46%, 44%, and 37% respectively. That's Shangri-La, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. We get a lot of stuff made from those countries. From the clothing production that's moved overseas over the last 50 years, all this is going to make an impact. Now you want to make you want companies now to start building companies to get in the US to start making these products. That's not an easy move to do. That's not going to happen.
That could take years. That could take years.
Exactly. That's not going to happen like that. But that's what we're looking at.
And that's the danger of putting people in place that do not understand infrastructure. And so even with, you see how Doge, the only thing in their minds was, let's cut. No strategic, no study, no plan, let's just cut. And that's what happened with RFK when he cut in the health department. You have to strategically plan. You have to go in and do a analysis and study and find those things that are shown to be waste. They didn't do that. They just went in and cut. It's very chaotic. It's very unproductive. And it's going to cost more than it's going to save. And so now they see the detriment of putting somebody in place that they're just clueless. All of them. It's sad. But to have an entire administration that's just clueless. Another danger is not being able to speak up. They're afraid.
Hmm.
They're being bullied and they are afraid, and that's a danger.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna
And,
see if I
you
can go
know,
ahead. Yeah.
and I think what should happen again is okay, you want to increase these tariffs, doesn't mean I have to accept it. Most adults these days have enough clothes.
Yeah.
They have enough to do with right now. Unless you're a growing child, you don't really, most people don't need anything.
Hmm.
So my thing is don't buy
Hmm.
unless it's a necessity. Don't buy,
Hmm.
because that's the only thing that they're going to understand again, is that you can, just because you're selling it to me does not mean I have to buy it.
Exactly. I agree. I totally agree. I found one of these videos here talking about the implication of tariffs. Like I said, for me it was personal because I'm a sneakerhead, and I got kind of pissed off knowing that my sneakers are going to be affected. But I want to see if I can get this to go
How much
live.
will your new sneakers cost you? Well,
Here you
after
go.
President Trump's announcement on tariffs, the share prices of Nike, Adidas and Puma all plunged. And it's no surprise why. A lot of the products that they make are made in Asian countries that were particularly hard hit by these new tariffs. China's tariff was hiked up to 54%, Indonesia got slapped with a 32% levy, and Vietnam 46%. Prior to President Trump's announcement, the estimated average levy on footwear coming from Vietnam was 13.6%. Now, Adidas makes around 39% of all its footwear in Vietnam, and Nike makes 50%. And they're not alone with their reliance on Vietnam. Up-and-coming running brand On sources 90% of its footwear from the country. But will we end up paying more? Well, since 2019, the price of a pair of new sneakers has actually risen by around 25%. And analysts at UBS think that the levies on Vietnam alone will see price rises of between 10 to 12% across the whole sector. They say this because they don't think that companies will be able to fully offset the cost of tariffs. How much will your new sneakers cost you? Well,
Yeah, that's just shoes. Just imagine those other high priced items, your refrigerators, your like even cars, the car industry. So,
Yeah.
these things are, really important. So when you boycott these companies and you say, I'm not going to buy this stuff anymore, I'm not going to buy it. Trump has to then make a change
Hmm.
because these companies are going to force him to make a change. It's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be
Right.
that easy. So I'm hoping that, we can look a little, things look a little different, but we have to, wait and see. But while we're waiting to see, let's be in action. Let's continue to do these type of podcasts and make our voice heard, educate people, let people know what's really happening out here. Um,
But I think that's the biggest thing that needs to happen, Lamar, and I'm not
mhm,
seeing enough of that. I don't know how we can attract, let's say, the average person of color that does not pay attention to politics.
mhm.
They don't really vote. How can we get to them to bring them in to start educating them? Those that are registered to vote that don't vote, how can we attract them and start talking to them? That needs to start happening right now.
Yeah,
And if different areas where there are critical races that are coming up, we need to be galvanizing right now to go in
mhm,
those areas and start attracting those demographic of people, to start educating them and make sure that they are ready for the next election. That's what
yeah,
needs to happen.
yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Uh, One of the things that I've done is that I speak to people and I try to put in their current problems and related to what's going on right now with our administration. Um, I know some Hispanic people here, in Texas that are not, say, they have legal citizenship to be here, but they're not from here. They're from other countries.
Hmm.
So when we watch these last few weeks, we've seen people deported who were legal citizens, who had the documentation to be here, working their jobs. They weren't criminals. I've seen a concern now with those people because I just bring up
Yeah.
the story. Did you hear about such and such? You know, they shipped them out. For real? Yeah, they shipped them out. Yeah, like wow. You know, like that can happen to you. You know that, right? And I want people to be prepared for even if that happens to someone that I know as a friend. I would be concerned. I'm concerned for them enough that I wouldn't want to see them go through that. But I want them to also start being prepared for if that was to come to their household. Have your paperwork in order. You know, have phone numbers of people to contact if this happens, so someone here who's a resident here can be the one that address the media and let them know this is what happened to you. You don't want to go to another country where you've never been before, and especially like that prison, that detainment center in Venezuela. That's like a slave camp.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
it's dangerous.
and it's dangerous. So
Hardcore criminals.
I want people to be prepared for elderly people who may be impacted with their Social Security or any type of benefits, their healthcare benefits. Just be prepared to know what's happening so you know how to pivot. Don't be stick there like with a deer with in headlights. Oh, and it finally happens to you. You're wondering, what am I going to do next? Have those plans in place.
It's
You
funny
know?
you say that, Lamar, because my yard man is Hispanic. And so the early part of the spring, it got to the point where my yard needed to be cut. Usually he just automatically comes around. He hadn't been around. So I text him and asked him when was he coming. And he said, "Oh, I'll be there." Okay. Another week passed by, still don't see him. Now I'm kind of wondering, okay, is he in trouble? Is he afraid to come out? What's going on with him that he's not mobile like he was? So 2 more weeks passed by, and I'm like, look, I gotta have my yard cut because I don't want the city to stick a note on my door about my
Yeah.
yard not being cut. Are you okay? Are you able to come? And so he didn't hear from him, so I called him. And so he said, "I'm sorry, I apologize. I have so much work going on. I got a big job that I'm working on, but I'm gonna come and cut your yard." And so that, I mean, I was gonna talk to him about, do you have your legal paperwork in order, or is
Yeah.
everything okay with you? I think it is, but I wanted to ask him that question, and unfortunately, when he came by to cut my yard, I
Yeah.
wasn't here. And so I'm going to tell you another thing that's happening. I'm unemployed right now. And
Right.
so usually at this time, I would have had him to clean my flower bed, trim back my bushes, trim back my trees. I have a garden. I would have had him to kind of help me to get started with my garden. But when he
Right.
came, I told him, I'm unemployed right now. The only thing I can have you, because he asked me, you other things you want me to do. I said, I'm unemployed right now. The only thing I can have you to do today is just cut my yard.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's gonna come about with all this, and it's really frustrating for a lot of people. I feel their pain. I feel what's going on, and it's hard to even plan day to day. But if you plan for the long run of just having things in place will help you. It's going to help a lot of us. And I just, even like you said in your situation, it's like, you got to have multiple people to probably even do your yard work for you, have multiple people on standby is what I'm saying. Regardless of what it may be. And not only that, it's the networking that we have to do with each other. The resources that someone else has to be able to help us out. It's going to go back to the bartering. Like, I have a cousin of mine who moved here from Germany. I just talked to him yesterday. We were, I was educating him yesterday about things because he's like have a small farm that he's putting together. And he raises his own chickens and vegetables, and he butchers his own chickens. He has, he loads his refrigerator up. He does the eggs, all that stuff. So he's looking at how to barter locally. And then he gave me another perspective. You know how some of the regulations are being removed from like the food industry.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, I look at it like, wow, we're not being updated on what's going on with foods. But with him, he made a good point. He said, if I sell 100 eggs, I can sell locally, and I don't have to put any type of labeling on my eggs. I can just sell them to people. But if I sell 300 eggs, I have to put different regulation wording on my cartons. So this is from a small business person who's doing this. He gave me a
Is he
different.
local?
He's in Georgia,
Oh man, I wish he was here.
Waycross, Georgia. Right, Waycross, Georgia. And so he networked with some other people. He talked to another guy, helped him start his farm. So that guy's raising turkeys. So my cousin is going to, butcher his chickens in about 3 weeks. Start loading up his refrigerator. Well, his buddy a little bit later is going to be needing his turkeys butchered. So they're helping each other. So now
Mhm.
you don't have to hire the outside company, third party to do these. They're helping each other. So I educated him a little bit about John Boyd, the black farmer who left from the NFL and started his farm and raising his own things because he knew that he wanted to teach the black community about farming. And so that's a network I'm trying to connect my cousin to. Um, he made a good point about coming. He wanted to come to America. So he has a dual citizenship, United States citizenship in Germany. Him and his wife both. But they wanted to allow their kids to grow up here. And they grow up here and chaos, politically happens. And he's been here about 3 or 4 years now. And he's watched the craziness that happened. He's like, I don't understand it. He said, why do you guys allow this to happen? And then at the same sentence, he said, Germany's is really bad now because Germany depends on the United States for a lot of things. The from a defense standpoint in the relationship. Now you have a country like Europe Germany, who is receiving tariffs like everyone else from the United States. He's saying, why should Germany be loyal to the United States right now? Why
Hmm.
should they? He said, the thing about it, though, if you realize it, when there's a war going on in Europe, in any country in Europe, it affects the whole country,
Mhm.
the whole continent of Europe, rather. That it affects every country that's within there, and that's something that we don't think about over here because we fight as a country, not as states. If one of our
Yeah.
states went to war with Japan, one of our states, how would that impact all of us as a country? So he was just looking at all those things that it's not just here, it's spreading across the globe of this conservative liberal type battle back and forth.
Mhm.
And so I applaud him for what he's doing. And so I want to learn more from him in farming myself. Even
Well, if you could even learn some from me, Lamar, the limited knowledge that I have. So I do small because, I can only do what my backyard can contain.
right,
But if I had a larger space, I could do a little bit more. And so the little bit of knowledge that I have, I could at least get you started.
right,
And I say start small so you go through the cycle and you start understanding. And now it's not too late. You just need to do it as soon as possible before the
right.
heat kicks in. Just start small and experience some this summer, and then next year you can maybe increase it.
I've grown a farm. I've had a farm. I've grown a garden before. In the past, I did fairly well. The difference here is um, I would love to be able to buy land where I not only have the vegetables, but I can have some type of animals on there too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Chickens is like you think about it. Chickens right now, you got two sources: the meat and the eggs. With chickens, you look at goats, for
Cattle,
instance.
because I'm
You look
I'm looking for somebody that raises fresh cattle because I really don't want to buy
right,
in the store anymore right now.
exactly,
I've I've always there was a time I could get fresh meat in Louisiana, but the butcher that I use
Hmm.
went out of business. He doesn't do it anymore. And
Wow.
since then, I've had a hard time trying to find somebody that it's grass fed and
Yeah.
and I feel good about how they grow and take care of their livestock.
So if you look at it from a farming and survival standpoint now, um, I think this is something that even collectively, if you partnership with other people to try to go ahead and buy land to where you can start, these communities of farmers and, actually not only farmers, but also people with like minds for self-defense, you know? Um, that's something I know that we've talked about in the past, but are we really ready to do this? I think this is here, Red State Farmers. Okay, yeah, they were saying how that basically black farmers say DEI policy humiliates red state farmers. I'm looking for seeing if I can find something. I think John Boyd mentioned something recently. I was trying to find something from him, but I don't see it online now. I don't see the video for it. But he's someone who's knowledgeable of this issue, and also he's been fighting to get the proper funding. If you look at it now with the aid that's being taken away, not only black farmers, but now white farmers are still complaining about not getting their funding after they spent all this
Mhm.
money on the crops, the seeds, growing them. And basically, a lot of their food were going to food pantries and different places around the world where people were starving because of the tariffs and the not being funded. All that food is going to spoil and go to waste.
Mhm.
That's worse than the tariffs, in my opinion, allowing the food to go to waste. It's ridiculous. I don't know what, I mean, it's like, so anyway, I think we hit a lot of topics today. and,
Yeah.
but hopefully, this protest today will make a difference, although I'm not going to be out there protesting because I'm going to preserve my life today. I don't want to be out there, but you did have what do you call it? A, a picture here. You had some information about some of the tariffs that are going on. I mean, tariffs, protesting that's going on here in the Dallas area. I'm going to go
Yes.
ahead and post that information for you. Let
And
me go
then
ahead. Go ahead.
also you could share that and then share the link so that people in other locations can know where to go to find where the boycott is going to be in their area.
Do you have that
But
link
if
for
they
that?
just
Did you send me
it's
the link?
right at yeah, I did. It was at the bottom of the email.
Okay, let me see if I can put that in for them. Um,
I'll even see if I can grab it and put it in the if we have a chat.
yeah, we got a chat on our back end here. Put it in our chat, and then I will go ahead and copy and paste that if you could. But I'm going to go ahead and bring you up to talk about this hands off Dallas. Want to talk a little bit about that? Think I have you here. I'll let you go ahead and do the link first, and then I'll let you bring up the talk about the Dallas thing. Okay, there it is. I see it. I'm gonna copy that. If it lets me copy that, copy. So yeah, I'm gonna
Sometimes
bring
it's
up. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say sometimes it's hard to bring up the copy in the chat. But
Okay.
anyway, in the uh Dallas area, let's see. I'm gonna have to go back. Okay, here we go. So they have, I mean, so many different areas within the DFW area that they are actually doing the boycott. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're in the Dallas area, I think it's gonna be in what they call it Daily Plaza at
Okay.
um 400 Main Street, and it's from 3 to 6. So
Okay.
it starts at Daily Plaza on 400 Main Street in Dallas at 3 o'clock. And
Okay.
so on the website, you see they have other areas. I made a mistake and put my hand, but McKinney, um, they're showing McKinney,
Yeah.
and Frisco,
I'm going to see if I can bring that
even
website up.
even Greenville, Texas has a
Okay.
volunteer flower mound.
I'm going to bring it up now and see if I can
Sherman.
get that picture there.
So that's amazing in terms of these, and as I stated in the beginning, normally you would not see these different areas
Mm-hmm.
boycotting. But right now, what it's telling us, so it's Denton, Texas, Burleson, Texas, Granbury, Tyler,
Okay.
Longview, Waco, Wichita Falls, Lawton, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Shreveport, Louisiana,
Okay.
College Station, Texas. And so my reason for naming these off is because these are areas that normally you would not see people boycotting. Round Rock, Texas. So that goes to show you how people are hurting and they're
Mm-hmm.
wanting to show some solidarity in these different areas.
Right.
Now, another thing I saw on the site where there was supposed to be a uh,
Mm-hmm.
garden event at the White House, and that was
Okay.
postponed until tomorrow because they are afraid of having protesters at the White House.
Okay. That makes sense.
And
Okay. I
so
understand that.
there are just so many different movements out there. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen this many movements. So I don't know if you've heard of one called the 5501 movement.
I have
And
not.
that is it's 50 states, 50 protests, one day. The
Oh,
movement's
wow.
official website gives you other hints and phrases. And another thing that I give the hands off people, they even had training. They wanted to show people, just in case there are some problems, how to
Mm-hmm.
de-escalate. So another thing, this is a they're wanting to have a peaceful protest. And
Right.
so, but the thing I do know that they have to be careful of is the outsiders that can come in
Right.
and derail their peaceful protest. But I think it we and I'm surprised they're doing it late in the afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock. I thought it would be more this morning, but it looks like all of the times are in sync and they're starting at 3 o'clock. And
Right. I
so
see. I know we have a lot of Ohio people that follow us also. Like you got Grove City, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio is doing one. Where else? You got so many. You got what is that? Westerville. Westerville is really in the sticks, but they have one going on. Man, so many in Northeast Ohio. Where is that up there? I mean, Cleveland, you have one going on. So they're all over, like this country. Like the map we showed earlier of all the different cities. So if you're in your community, check out this website. I'm going to post it again. Excuse me. So you can see exactly what uh, what the website says. Go to that link. That's the wrong one. I don't want to use that. I think it's still up there. So yeah, just use the. Why do I have my picture here twice? Did you leave, Sharon? You still there, right? Why did
no,
you
I'm still
leave?
here. I'm still here.
Yeah, why did your picture leave? Let me get this
It's
thing straightened
I
out.
can see it on my screen. I still see my picture,
Yeah.
you, and
I'm like,
the
man, let me
picture of
there we go. Mine, it was showing, there we go. Yeah, so if you're looking at the website link there, just go WHTTPS the www.mobilize.us/hands-off slash. Do not put the whole link in, hands off exclamation point, link to the website. Just do the first portion there. I just copied and pasted what you gave me there. So I don't want to confuse people because they're going to might put the whole thing in and it won't show up. I tried that already. But you were saying something else, Sharon, before I didn't mean to cut you off.
I think I was just talking about it's just so amazing to see all of these smaller cities that are planning to be part of this April 5th boycott. And
Yeah.
so another thing I think we could at least do is pray that the people are kept safe,
Yeah.
that intruders that are wanting to derail their peaceful boycott will be unsuccessful. So
Yeah.
we pray that they will be kept safe and that they will have a very productive
Hmm.
a boycott. And we pray that it also uh, has results, because
Yeah.
it's nothing like having your voice heard and then some positive steps taken because of you voicing your concern of what's going on
Right.
with this country. And Lamar, another thing that I would like to bring up is that so many people are losing jobs right now.
Hmm.
I talked to a recruiter last week, and from December is when I aggressively started seeking employment. I got laid
Hmm.
off in July.
Hmm.
Normally, by now, I would have a temp assignment, a contract assignment. I would have something.
Right.
And I haven't been able to even get a contract assignment. I talked to a
Wow.
recruiter with an agency last week, and she told me that it's slow right now.
Right.
I do have another interview next week. However, I think we're going to have to start, people are going to have to look at unconventional ways to earn income. And it's
Hmm.
different opportunities out there where you can earn income, but you have to be open minded. And so I'm
Hmm.
going to share one with you, Lamar, and let you listen to it later on,
Okay.
so that people will understand you don't have to succumb to unemployment. You just have to be open minded.
Hmm.
There are other ways to generate income, but you
Hmm.
just have to be open minded. So I think that's another thing that we're going to see is people going to look at more unconventional ways that they probably wouldn't explore in
Hmm.
the past, that they really should be open to right now,
Yeah.
because you want to make sure that unemployment doesn't stifle you, that you are, and none of us can say that it will not happen to you.
Yeah.
Mine was sudden. I in the short term I saw signs, but in the long term, I kind of had that because of the climate I was in. But short term, I could see it coming, but
Yeah.
it was kind of hard to prepare for it.
Yeah.
So I just think in this climate that we're living in right now, more and more people are going to have to start preparing for it, because you just never know from day to day what's going to happen right now.
There's a woman here, she's talking about it's from a like a TikTok or something, and complaining about the job market right now, what that looks like, and it people are hurting right now. I'm gonna see if I
Hmm.
can bring this one up for you.
Oh my God, I'm so hungover. I've never been this hungover. Are we dead?
I feel great. I ran 5K this morning.
Really?
No, I threw up in the shower.
Oh my God, I'm so hungover. I've never been this hungover. Are we dead?
I feel great. I ran 5K this morning.
Really?
No, I threw up in the shower.
Oh my God, I'm so hungover. I've never been this hungover. Are we dead?
But everybody's they trying to make jokes of it, but you can't even can you act, for a person looking for a job, is running a 5K actually on your agenda at this moment?
Mm-mm.
People who lost a job, and I can't. I am blessed in a situation where I am employed, but for those like yourself who are looking for a job, like you said, you might have to evolve and do some things unconventionally that you might not have done before. It may be a whole different industry and work, but how do we network those jobs? Who do we talk to? Um, then you got this DEI thing. They're reducing DEI. Now you have people of color, handicapped people, veterans who are like, well, will they look at me as a DEI person and not give me the job?
Hmm.
If I don't get the job, am I going to say they didn't get the job because they looked at me as DEI? It's so many. It's so complex right now of of
But the
weaving
bigger
through.
picture, Lamar, is
Mhm.
what you just said is that now they don't have to look at me,
They don't. Yeah.
whereas before, and don't get it twisted. I don't a lot of people are misinterpreting DEI.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So but if you want to see what's really going on and what the real message is, as a person of color, when you went to interview for that job, you had to be credentialed.
Yeah.
They didn't give you that job if you didn't have the experience or education.
Right.
So a lot of people, if they see the underlying message is this right here, is that I don't want Black people taking corporate jobs. That's really what it is.
Okay.
Because if we really were talking about qualifications, a lot of them wouldn't qualify for
Right.
the job.
No.
Oftentimes, they don't qualify for the
Hmm.
job. If you look at the White House and its administration, how many of those people truly qualify for the job?
Yeah.
The
A lot of them
people
don't.
that they will replace of color, you have Q.O. Brown that was stripped of his position,
Hmm.
and I can't think of the other gentleman's name. Was stripped of his position. They
Right.
both were replaced with people that are less qualified.
Yeah.
So the true meaning of DEI says that you gave a Black person a job, but I want white people to have that job, whether they're qualified or not.
Yeah.
I want them to have that job, and Blacks should not afford an opportunity to be gainfully employed. That's what this movement really is
Or
about.
or or it may not gainfully employed, but equally employed.
Well, I'm going to say gainfully employed
Okay. Okay.
because what did they do? QO has no job right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at right now, that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
at myself.
Hmm.
Okay. So I was qualified for my job. I had 2 degrees.
Yeah. Right.
And so I guarantee you the person that probably replaced me, I don't know if that person had 2 degrees.
Right. Most likely not.
And so and that's what I mean. So right now, most of us are taken away from our jobs and we don't have enough. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I would say I was underemployed even in that position.
Yeah.
I was
That happens a lot.
underemployed.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so mainly what we have is either unemployment or
Yeah.
underemployment.
I totally agree. So we're gonna round this out.
Austin, that's his name. I was trying to think of his
Okay.
name.
Oh, Lloyd Austin. Yeah.
Lord Austin.
Yeah, definitely. Highly qualified. But Lloyd Austin kind of put himself in a jam when he had got ill and didn't really, notify anybody that he was ill. And I think he was doing that to
But
protect his job. That was to protect his job, I think.
but to me, that wasn't a real reason to remove him from his job. That was just
Yeah.
he just gave him a reason to go after him, but that
Yeah.
was not a true reason.
Oh no,
He
not
was ill. He was ill. Do you want him being in the office and he's ill? Now
no.
he should have followed the right protocol,
Yeah.
but I think I don't know. I just think they made it more out of it than what needed to be because
Right.
they did not want him at that job. It just gave him and we always have to know, we have to read the process, the procedures,
Yeah.
and follow them, because if we don't, they are gonna use it against you.
I totally agree with you on that. And I feel that I think it's gonna get better. It's gonna take some time, but we have to stay diligent, stay resilient, and just continue to educate each other on these policies, these things that are happening. Um, the Every time you see an agency closes down, and a community where that's impactful to them. Like I use the lead poisoning example because there are a lot of communities. My grandmother worked for lead poisoning prevention. She worked for a nonprofit that was I take it was no, I'll take it back. It was for the city, actually, for the city of Cleveland, a program that she was in. And this was before she passed. She was a nurse for 20 something years, 20 plus years. And in her later years of her career, she decided to work because she had a heart for kids. And she was to be the one to go test them for lead poisoning. And knowing someone who worked in that industry and watched her expose buildings and communities that had high lead levels, and see the change that came about from the work that they were doing to get these schools and these apartment buildings, these homes corrected so that these kids didn't get sick. To watch something like this now, all these years later, it's like you have no compassion or sympathy for those that are underprivileged and have no way of getting out of their circumstance right now. And then you're going to allow them to be in a polluted area that's going to affect their health for the rest of their life, possibly. That's heartless, in my opinion. And now you got to hire these people back because you didn't think about that. You probably didn't even know the Lead Poisoning Prevention Division existed.
Right. And think about the case in Louisiana that's called Cancer Alley, where they had a lawsuit going because that whole neighborhood, which is predominantly Black, has a chemical company nearby that it's been proven that the chemicals are causing cancer to the residents of that area. Well, he canceled that lawsuit.
That's
it was
crazy.
Canceled.
That's a disgrace.
Yep.
I'm just looking it up right now. About Cancer Alley. I don't know what these videos are. I haven't even looked at them yet, but I did find a short here. This lady talking. Why? Oh, this is from MSNBC. She's reporting from Cancer Alley. And I'm not, like I said, I wasn't as familiar with this, but I can
It's
play
been
that.
going on for some time, a long time, where they've been trying to get retribution. And the problem is a lot of those people probably cannot afford to
How much will your new
relocate.
sneakers cost you? Well, after President
Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard that or not coming through the speakers.
I did.
But, okay. Yeah, like when I put a website in it, I can automatically play. So here's the one from MSNBC speaking about Cancer
So we just
Alley.
got to St. John's Parish, which is one of the parishes in what's known as Cancer Alley here in Louisiana. And it's a part of the country where there's just a disproportionate number of industrial plants that have been polluting the air for decades. And this is the site of a major lawsuit, a landmark lawsuit that was filed by the Biden administration to stop one of these big plants from polluting the air of a largely Black and brown community. But as soon as Trump got into office, he labeled all these kinds of efforts part of a political agenda that was all DEI related, and he dropped the lawsuit last week. So we're here to talk to people in the community who've been fighting against these polluters for decades about what it means to live under this new administration that may effectively see their lives as expendable.
We've been labeled as a sacrifice zone.
What's a sacrifice zone?
The area we're in now, Cancer Alley, is known worldwide as a sacrifice zone. I didn't find that out until about 4 years ago. What it is people are dying. Babies are suffering and dying here. My mother, my sisters, my next door neighbors, my friends from around, they are dying. And cancer is a terrible thing to die from. Death is not beautiful or not something but the rate of cancer, the rate of illnesses, the impact on the health of the people in what they now call a sacrifice, that's what it comes down to, the lives of these people.
So we just got to St. John's Parish, which is one of the parishes in what's known as Cancer.
Yeah, so that was from MSNBC reporting on the Cancer Alley. And then you're hearing from the people that live there. I'm not as familiar with it, so you brought something to my attention to pay more close attention to. But to have a lawsuit canceled, because we know that that company probably is going to get the tax cut that Trump is trying to put in place. That company is someone that he's protecting versus him looking out for the people of Louisiana. So we're going to round this out with our final comments. So what's your final comments for today, Sharon?
I want to sit back now and watch this protest and just see what comes from it and how it's received, and just I just want to see what's gonna come from it. Is this the main thing? And I think it's just one of many. We as the people are going to have to raise up against the things that are going on in this country that's detrimental to the country. I think it's gonna be us, because it looks like Congress and Senate, their hands are tied. And so to a certain extent, I think if they would stop worrying about the political party, and think about the constituents that sent them to the Senate and Congress, if they think about their constituents, something can be done. But because of the bullying, they are afraid to. And so that's why I think it lies on the people to bring about some change.
Right. Totally get it. My last comment really for today is something to actually, I just missed it right here. I had something to play. The last time we were on the air, I made some comments about black men in politics. And I mentioned how, there's a lot of movements, galvanizing women in politics, black women, which I have no problem with. I fully support. But I was saying there were men within these politicians who, to me, weren't speaking up enough. And that right after that is when you were mentioning about Justin, representative down
Jones.
in Justin Jones down in who lost his brother, Tennessee, who lost his brother, and how he snapped back at the on the other side of the aisle about those who were questioning why he was absent or why he wasn't there. And then this past week, we had Cory Booker, who I specifically mentioned in that last episode that we had. Cory Booker showed me something different, because not only did he break the record, which people are trying to be passive on, but he brought up several comments or several points that need to be addressed. He didn't waste the time like you see in a filibuster, because this wasn't a filibuster, by the way. It was his time on the floor. And we've had former representatives who did nursery school rhymes. We've had them read the Gettysburg Address. We have to do all these things just to waste time, to keep something from moving forward. Well, Booker did the same thing, and he dropped so much knowledge on people. And as we close out, I'm going to play a piece from Cory Booker speaking, and just see.
So
if
we just
can,
got to St. John's Parish.
See if we can close out with that. Take a few pointers from what he said, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody after that. Let me put this one in here. And I really respected what Cory Booker did, because not only did he use that time period to talk to people, but he used that time period also to allow his colleagues to engage in questions. Now it became a two-way thing. It was just a brilliant way that his staff put this together for him. Like I was saying, they gave him all the ingredients where he can eat all day for 24 hours. And I just use that as a metaphor of eating, of saying that, because we know he fasted, he dehydrated himself, so he would never have to leave that floor.
So we just got to St. John's Parish, which is...
I keep putting up the wrong video for some reason. But let me pull this back up again. But I'm going to play this from Cory Booker. Again, like I said, I thought it was very, very interesting the way he did it, very brilliant the way he did it. And he was so educational in what he was doing as well.
Have you ever been to the Bahamas? Have you swam with wild dolphins off the coast of Bimini?
On commercial,
or hopped from key to key
and it should be no commercial.
Or jumped for...
I can't stand YouTube. It's a YouTube video that I'm grabbing.
And, I know, and you have to wait till it allows you to skip the commercial.
Now, all the other videos didn't do that. It's like, now this one wants to do it. And I just want the video to play,
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. This would be a crisis for elder care. This would be a crisis for disability services. What it is, when a nation isn't taking care of its elders, it's a crisis of our national character. Why are so many women dying in childbirth and in the postpartum period in America? Shameful. And now, I just found out that the community violence intervention money that you allowed me to fight so hard to get into that bill is being clawed back by Donald Trump. They're writing me letters with words like fear and terror. They're talking about staying up at night and not being able to sleep because they don't have a president that comforts them. I mean, it's almost like you can't make this up, honestly. Another story from a Social Security employee in New Jersey. I am a claims representative for our Social Security field office. The most dramatic changes I've noticed from our recent change in operations is that our appointment calendar seems to be filling up more quickly for simple post-entitlement changes. We've gone through healthcare cuts. We've gone through Social Security being attacked and undermined and slashed. If you're revoking somebody's visa, make a phone call, tell them that you have 30 days to leave. But there should be due process. You should have to prove your claims in court. If this person is somehow allying with some kind of enemy, prove it. You don't need more tax cuts. And we as a society have an obligation to each other, to those farmers, to those rural folks, to the cops I stood with at the funeral of one of their colleagues in Newark 2 weeks ago. Our Social Security offices are being closed already. And the question of why, under the guise of efficiency, but you're hurting our elders who deserve.
That was touching to me. He hit on so many points. So that's how I want to end out my portion of it, my final word, because people need to hear the things they're being affected by. And if they don't believe it, they can now research it. So I tell people to research. So with that said, Sharon, I want to thank you for being here with me. Hopefully next week we'll have the rest of the crew with us. We do miss having Lawrence, who's busy, and Greg Battle. We just got a new producer added to our show. It's going to be my daughter, Bria. She's going to be joining us a little bit. So hopefully her daughter's in soccer right now. She probably won't be with us for another 8 weeks, probably another 2 months. But we want to hopefully get the crew up and get a nice panel with us next time. But I want to thank you again, Sharon, and you keep yourself at home today now.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was important, even though it was just two of us, to continue on so that we could discuss the boycott today. You know, in the current format versus afterwards. So I think it's important, and again, I hope it's a success, and I pray for all of the participants that they stay safe, and those that want to derail it are not able to do so.
Yep, totally agree. And I'll catch you all next time.
All right, take care.